Hey everyone, welcome to the July online chapter meeting of the Building Designers Association of Australia. My name is Jennifer Binns and I'm a building designer based in Tasmania. With me today, managing the Zoom technology while Sarah Jane is on leave. So thanks for joining us, Bronwyn, and thank you for everyone else who's attending the meeting with us and our presenters. Please put a comment in the chat box and let us know where you're logging in from. It was great to have you all with us. So the National Design Awards are closing on Sunday. So if you're working on an entry or still have one in mind, you've still got time. Bronwyn is going to put a link in the chat box now to access the awards platform. So if you need any assistance, please reach out to designawards@bdaa.com.au. There are 30 categories to choose from, and we encourage all members to submit an entry to have a chance to win an award, boost your reputation and set yourselves apart from the crowd. And the next item of news is, of course, the Design Conference, and the BDAA is proud to present the Rebuilt Environment, a national festival of design. The program is centred around the 2022 National Conference and National Design Awards, and this year has evolved into a festival presented on an even grander scale with both traditionally classic and excitingly innovative new features included in a single admission ticket. I'll briefly run through the agenda for the conference. So Thursday night is the trade show. Friday is the first day of the conference. Friday afternoon, there is an architectural walking tour. Friday night, there is a networking party. Saturday is the second day of the conference. Saturday night is the National Design Awards Gala at the Museum of Melbourne. Sunday and Monday, there are fan experiences lined up. Tuesday is Melbourne Cup Day, and we have a group booking for anyone and everyone to join us on a pay-as-you-go basis. So the formal conference dates are Thursday, the 27th of October from 5:30 p.m. until Saturday, the 29th of October at 11:30 p.m. The members' fan experiences are Sunday, the 30th of October until Tuesday, the 1st of November. All of the speakers have been secured. However, the BDAA is still offering the super early bird price of $595 for 2 more weeks while we wait for the speakers to confirm the titles of their presentations. So Bronwyn will post a link in the chat box now for you to register for the conference. Thank you, Bronwyn. Before we get started with today's presentations, we just would like to encourage your participation in an anonymous poll, which focuses on fees and fee structures. Fee for service can be a tricky topic to navigate as there are several types of business operations within the construction industry. And in addition to this, there's been a level of chaos with the COVID pandemic, which has further worsened the disconnect between what a professional may charge their client and what a client may expect to pay. It's also difficult for entry-level designers and thermal performance assessors to know where to position their pricing structure. So in a bid to better advocate for our members within the industry and to the wider public, we would like you to participate in a poll. And Bronwyn's going to post a link in the chat box now. So there are 9 questions which do their best to identify this fee information and are intended to be able to provide advice around common industry practice when it comes to pricing structures. The results of the poll will be shared at the National Design Conference, and it's just another reason to attend the conference. So please, if you can spare the time and are happy to be involved, that would be really useful information. A quick through of our Zoom tools before we get started with our presentations. You can ask questions throughout the meeting using the Q&A box, and you can upvote other people's questions. And we also ask that you put questions in the Q&A box rather than the chat box because they tend to get lost. You can ask questions via audio with the raise your hand tool, and we ask you to check that there's no background noise that will interfere with the audio when we unmute you. So the chat box is there as a continuous message thread for comments, and Bronwyn will use the chat box to post links and questions in the Q&A box. And the more questions and comments, the better. So our first presenter today is Jason Furness from Texo. Jason will be discussing Aquacomb and solving difficult sites for retention and detention. Hello, Jason. You're still muted. If you are unmuted. Beautiful.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good, good.
Thank you for joining us.
No, my pleasure. Sarah Jane sent me an email from midnight somewhere, wherever she was.
Yes, she's gallivanting.
Saying, hey, can we do this?
Thank you for joining us. Are you ready to go? I'll hand over to you.
Just mess with the technology and look to share screens. And we should be right in a sec. So I'll just work out which screen
We've lost you. We've got you.
I hope so.
You froze for a second there.
All right. Now we should be okay.
All right. Over to you.
Okay. Hopefully you've now got a title screen that says Aquacomb.
Yes, we do. Yep.
Right. So I've spoken at a number of these before, so some of you may have heard of Aquacomb in the past. What we're going to cover today is not just what Aquacomb is, which gives you much more flexibility as a designer, but some very, very real world problems now that we are having come to us from designers, builders, and homeowners or owners who've got their development approval, but suddenly been whacked with, oh, by the way, you need a 10, 15 or 20,000 litres of detention. Here's your DA, you've already invested a whole bunch of money, but we're just going to add 70, 80 or $100,000 to your project. I'm just going to show you what that looks like, what that feels like, and standing next to some of the solutions and how we fit in and help. Aquacomb's been around for a long time. We were on Grand Designs Australia back in 2010. I don't know what petrol was back then, but it was probably about $1.30 for those of you who filled up recently. Right, so very simply, if you're in the Sydney, Southern Highlands, Central Coast, Newcastle, the last thing you want to talk about is the facts about water, given what's around. But basically, all the regulations, and water tanks are a regulation-driven business, be it for retention or detention, I'll explain what they are, is just by taking the load off of the water assets. Now, as population increases, not much the last 2 years, the demand for drinking water increases, and the more water we can recirculate, capture, reuse in the home takes load off Sydney water. It does transfer the cost to the homeowner, but that's the reality. But the numbers are staggering about how many billion litres there are, how many thousands of kilometres of pipes. This is a very significant piece of infrastructure. That 22,000 kilometres of pipes is just the water coming in. It's not the water going out. There's another 22,000 kilometres of pipe taking the rainwater out and the sewer and everything else. So getting into it for the time frame, we've always got to be able to how we can do more with less, and you're always looking to make innovation into your design work. Developers are looking for innovation to have something that makes the development stand out and, what realistically, reduce the cost. And I know a lot of us are struggling with or having to deal with the inflationary impact of building costs, causing designs to alter, projects to go on hold, or projects to frankly be cancelled because of the increases. So wherever we can have a solution that helps create some flexibility and reduces cost, that's great. Lifting the bar and all that is what we're all looking through. They're people we deal with regularly in many cases on using Aquacomb. It's a well-proven system. So I'm going to take you through rainwater and why you have to do things about it. Some major technology options currently used, a bit about council's approaches and key questions for you to look at and consider and ask the people you partner with in developing your designs. And just one example of a very tricky site that we're engaged in where we've been rung up as an emergency to try and help rescue this project. Okay, Aquacomb. It's the graphic. Rain falls. Look outside, you'll see it. The rain is captured in the downpipes. It goes into the tanks that are all interconnected, and they are the same footprint as your standard polystyrene waffle pipe. And that's where we capture it. Now, whether you've got 1,000, 3,000, 20,000 litres, depending on the size of the house, what's visible above the ground is the small pump station. I'll show you what that looks like a bit later on. But basically, you end up with reusing your existing footprint. So if you've got a very small site where land use ratio is an issue, it's a very good solution. If you've got a tricky site where access is a problem for an existing site, it's a very good solution. Okay, why do you have to do anything? All that pipe work I mentioned before, it's got to be maintained. Governments do have a big infrastructure bill. They want to reduce that, and they're trying to take load off the system. That's what it's all about. As we increase the amount of development, hard surfaces, roofs and driveways catch water and it runs off faster instead of going into the ground. The water doesn't soak into the earth, it's caught, it's got to go somewhere quickly. And that's what most of you will be familiar with, detention basins that are around various subdivisions. And increasingly, particularly if you're in a council area where there are waterways, the regulations they have are well above BASICs, and you can get your DA back. And there's one we're looking on from in Manly where there's a small block. It's having been knocked down, rebuilt to duplexes. And the DA came back, yeah, that's great. But each duplex had to have 3,000 litres of retention. Okay, that's all right. But 15,000 retention, 15,000 litres each of detention. And that's massive, and that project is not viable with underground solutions. You're going to add 100 grand to the construction costs. That detention there is to take the load off the system for the shock of volume of water coming through, but the shock of also, well, frankly, the bird poo, changing the chemical balance of the streams and estuaries. That's why there's regulations governing this. Right, the main two water strategies: retention, capture, and reuse. You need about 8 to 10,000 litres in Sydney to really guarantee your percentage of, or to always have water around between dry periods. I know for those of us in that area that that doesn't really seem too real to us right now, but it will come back. Toilets, taps, and washing machine, and an external tap rather, is what we can do. Detention. This is taking the shock load off the estuaries, and it needs much larger volumes. The smallest one I've seen specified was 10,000 litres. Stormwater surge is captured and then drains away over a period of time. This is a mistake that I've seen people do, is they don't go and check, do they have to put detention in? And when it comes back with the approved DA with the conditions on there, and then we get a phone call saying, we don't want to dig a big hole for an underground tank, or we hadn't budgeted on this, what can we do? Right, well-known and accepted technologies and what's going on with them. So concrete detention pits are really common. Built on site, some are precast and put in, it's expensive. You've got to dig a big hole. You usually got to treat or compact the earth beneath it. If you've built one like the bottom right-hand corner, you've then got to seal it. And they are unsightly and expensive and block up site access during construction unless it's carefully coordinated. It's a well-proven technology. It works. Underground tanks. You'll see here, the one up on top left's about 5,000 litres. Again, there you've got to put, in this case, they put a concrete base down. That tank will be lowered in, there'll be compacted fill around there, there'll probably be concrete put into the interior. It's a 2 or 3 day process. It's expensive. It's a lot of work. Aquacomb, that's a 5,000 litre, I think, in slab system. So there's no extra footprint. It goes in as the concreters are putting all their waffle pods and mesh in. And all you see above ground is that pump box in the upper left, whether that's 1,000 litres, 5,000 litres, or whatever size, that's all you see above ground is that pump box. So land use ratios are not an issue. And you also get rid of the unsightliness of above ground tanks, like that one. Now, above ground tanks are only allowed in most areas for retention and not allowed for detention. I think one of the reasons for that is that anyone can come through after the event, remove the above ground tank, and no one's the wiser. And then the council loses all its protection of its assets. Now, we supply a range of above ground tanks. If anyone wants above ground tanks, that's fine. They are very functional. They really are very rarely allowed for detention from the councils we deal with a lot and the engineers we work in. So land use ratio, I've banged on about that a little bit already. Really, on the x-axis, there's land surface area. Now, for aquacomb and for underground tanks, your visible area doesn't really change with size. You can't put underground tanks under houses and so on, where aquacomb you can. But if you want to hide it away, you can do that. For your built-in ground tanks, you end up with a bigger area covered because you usually lose that space above it. It's not a lawn or a usable area. It can be a part of a driveway or an access way amongst townhouses. But you end up with a big area being taken up. And plastic and metal above ground tanks, you're losing the area, detention or retention. Cost. If you're going to do a big underground tank, that's the most expensive relatively. Yes, this is all subject to change with prices of various commodities. And the cheapest all the way is above ground plastic tanks, but they're not always allowed for some solutions. Aquacomb's more expensive of the other areas, but digging a big hole and all that sort of excavation work and the time is very, very pricey. All right, That's a 5,000 litre tank. That's me there next to it, not because I like my photo on there, it's for scale. It's okay, you look at a catalogue or you look at a drawing and they look relatively small compared to the house. Go and stand next to a 5,000 litre tank. That's a fairly common basic size for retention. It's 3 odd metres long, a bit over 2 metres high, and this one's about 1080, so a bit over a metre deep. If you've got a smaller block or a medium-sized block, it's taking up a lot of side access. And the big thing is you may as well write off a window. Against the side of the house, you write off a window. You've got a home theatre, great, you don't want a window on that wall. If you put it in as an afterthought, you will block a window if you've got in there. You'll also block off your side access, but get some idea of the scale. Now, if you're looking at 10,000 litres, sorry, it's a 5,000 litre underground tank. Again, I'm there for scale purposes. 3.5 metres by 3.5 metres. You've got to dig down about, the tank itself is about 800 deep, but you've usually got to go down about 1.2 or more to give you some ground coverage, and that's what I've got my hand on there is the outlet up to the hatch. These are big items of kit that need to be planned in, and that tank weighs 400 kilos. There's a bit of effort involved in putting that in place. Aquacomb, they're 13 or 15 kilos each, depending on the size. And you've got the pump box there. Now, skipping through, I know we're short of time. 10,000 litres, it's the magic of cut and paste. Again, you've got over 6 metres in length. If you have a large retention requirement, it becomes unviable. You start looking like an industrial chemical plant on the exterior if you've got to put those things on the side of your house. So, questions to ask to avoid the problems we get. Every weekend, we get responses to our ads about the keyword of detention saying, can you help us? We've got a detention problem. Go and ask first. Look at your local DCP, LEPs, ABCs, whatever the various acronyms your council is using about the plan. It's easy to overlook that there will be a detention requirement. And we get plenty of builders, developers, and homeowners talking to us. It's a couple of weeks saying, I've got my DA, but this requirement on here we can't solve without boosting our cost up. What do? We'd like to start construction in 6 weeks' time. Now, by the end of August, we will have that pathway through councils all mapped out and our first few jobs going through. This is a relatively new venture. We've got the right engineers involved in helping us just pick through, dot the I's, cross the T's. It's all going to be there, and we've got a couple of councils that are very, very cooperative in Sydney for doing this. This is a problem you can avoid the sticker shock and the tired and emotional response, because all of us involved in designing and constructing, it's pretty hard to look the homeowner in the eye and say, oops, sorry, we didn't think of that one. You can go and have a look. Basics minimum, ask about will council, what's the history about going above basics minimums for retention in particular? Some basics minimum will be 3,000, some will still specify 5 or more. And again, our experience is if the council's covering significant waterways around on coastal areas, they seem to be the ones that are much more likely to increase those requirements above the basics minimum. Sloping blocks, we all know they're problematic. They become much more problematic around water solutions because you have to look at how do you link into the existing easements and other stormwater assets. And in one job that I'm going to show you shortly, next issue, is the hydraulic engineer has walked away from the project. He's not comfortable with working through the solution and of any of the solutions, and has walked away and is basically saying to the homeowner, yeah, nice idea for the renovation, but I can't be part of that. I'm not comfortable when doing my work on there. So all the people that are going to coordinate on your design work through all these problems. Biggest thing is go check in advance before you start drawing. Tricky site. This is a beautiful, beautiful renovation extension to happen on the northern beaches. This is a great example of, we've got the DA, it's all beautifully done, the designs are there, I just copied and pasted a bit out of the architectural plans. However, they've got to put in about 25,000 litres of on-site detention, and the front part, the upper stories of that house are already there. And you cannot reach over the back to put a big tank in. They've got bad access all the way around, and the cost is going to, well, they haven't got access. It doesn't matter what's going to cost. You can't get a crane to get any other asset over there. And you have to hand carry every brick if you're going to construct it all by hand. And they're being told they have to capture all the water from all roof surfaces, and that includes the surrounds of the pool. They can attach to an easement base of that property. This is one of those Hail Mary passes we had given our way. I'll have a look at the Q&A in a minute. I can't deal with that. I can't look at it right now and see what I'm talking about. All right, so we've got a very complex system here with aquacomb pods all interconnecting from the high areas to the low, but it's all very simple. It's just a lot of it. Go back. Now, we can solve all of that. We can deal with the access. We can comply with all the requirements. All we need to do is cooperate with the council and the hydraulic engineers to be able to show that we attach to the easements, we've looked at all the alternatives, and we're there. And then this very, very prestigious looking and rather expensive renovation can go ahead. If we can't help them with the solution, then that homeowner's wasted a stack of money on something that could have been somewhat flushed out before we began. I know we're short of time, it's only a 15-minute activity, so I'll just go through that and have a quick look at the QA, see if I can answer anything there. Okay, try to use your system. A stormwater engineer was completely against it. The reason was cost and maintenance. He convinced the clients not to use. Find a different stormwater engineer. There's plenty to do with it. We've got 15,000 things in here. We're used by other builders. We have a way of cleaning the system, and it is more expensive than a standard above ground tank. All right, but yeah, not every engineer, I am an engineer, so I can pay out on my own profession, but not every engineer agrees with everything, and we're approved and utilised quite widely. Okay, the question about energy efficiency, we do get asked a little bit, and there's nothing that we have that allows us to model any impact on the thermal performance of the slab or thermal performance of the activity there. There isn't work that we've done around that. We don't have problems with people saying there's cold floors. I'm certain in a thermodynamic sense, it does have some impact when the tanks are full. We think that what's going to happen is the water temperature will equalise with the ground temperature is all quite low, but we don't have the modelling around any of that. Okay, concrete underground tanks are generally much, much more expensive. I think at a factor of 3 in the graph that I prepared for a presentation to a building designers group. And lifespan of the aquacomb tanks, we warrant them for the life of the slab. So unless your slab's cracked and falling apart, the tanks are going to be fine. They are very well protected. Any leakage or blockage, they don't leak. We have repair methods when carpenters drill through the top, then we can do those. And it's happened twice in my 2.5 years and was picked up during construction as soon as the downpipes were connected. And that's all there. All right. When you say aquacomb is cheaper, all right, it's cheaper on that graph. I had to go through the graph quickly, but compared to digging deeper, assuming you can, it's about well under half the cost. I think the multiple I had there was 3 times for an underground tank. Now, 50 square metres, we need to have a look at some plans on your site and what your actual requirements are on volumes, okay? Happy to have a look at that, but I really can't pulling figures out of the air in specifics. I'm really just not able to do that. It's not fair on anyone. Leakage or blockage, they don't get blocked. We do recommend that you use a first flush device to keep the debris out of the whole system. But in all of our testing, and we're doing some more with a hydraulic engineering group now, as part of this detention activity, is about 96% of it all stays of the debris, silt and whatever, sits in the charge line. And when we do a detention system, we will actually put a settling pit before it feeds into the actual detention pods. All right. Well, my client's own a building, decided to use aquacomb because he couldn't install the aquacomb himself. We do the installation. If it's remote to Sydney, like Melbourne, generally the plumbers are the construction. But the last thing we want is an owner builder putting it in themselves. They really don't know what they're doing, and they're putting it into the base foundation of the house. There's too much risk. All right, you really do. The last question, we have a device that goes into the pods where we've got a cleaning attachment where almost the remaining couple of % of silt that can get in there sits in there, and we can vacuum that out. Now, we have been doing this for 15 years. The number that being cleaned is almost 0. We can do a cleaning service, but frankly, if the plumbing's done properly, all the muck does settle in the charge line, and they really don't get a problem. Now, because of the greater floor area, compared to a normal rainwater tank, we've got about 8 to 10 times more the surface area. So silt depth is it's just a non-event. That's some of the engineering work we're doing to prove that, because of course I'm going to say that, but our in-house testing here just shows that the silt just doesn't get in there, and certainly doesn't build up to a level that causes a problem for anyone. All right, if there's no other questions, I better get back to Jennifer, because I've probably gone over time by a couple of minutes, but I know you've got other things you need to do.
Oh, good. That was great. Thank you very much for stepping in and.
Right, now I'm going to
doing
try
that
and get to the spot where I can share my screen. I don't know. Here we go. Or share. Should be back to you now. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
No problem.
So that's, if anyone has any more questions, they can forward them to Jason. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer them. Our second presentation is Jeremy Napier from Sculptform. Now, I'm just going to, bear with me. So Jeremy is going to be presenting Sculptform's products and just some of the latest developments they have for the design community. So we got you online, Jeremy. Are you there? I can see your screen. Just need to unmute. Hello, welcome.
How are you, Jennifer?
Thank you for joining us.
That's all good. And I'm
Are you ready to go?
Yep, I'm just getting a PowerPoint up. Whoops. Sharing my screen.
Lovely. I'll hand over to you.
Good, thank you.
You just need to change that over into presentation mode, because we can see the thumbnails down the side.
Sorry,
That's all right.
I don't do this very often.
All good. Thank you. That's it.
Excellent. Good. Well, hello, everybody. And I'm the founder and managing director of Sculptform. We supply the sorts of products you can see in front of you Australia-wide. I'm not normally in sales, but this opportunity came up and I thought, well, guess what? I'd get a chance to talk to some clients and to the market. So here I am. So as a company, we supply feature wall and ceiling products that's primarily made out of timber, but we also have aluminium products with a timber look for fire rated applications. And this is a typical project you can see in front of you, where anything that looks like a batten is what we supplied. And that is the theatre, Queen Elizabeth Theatre in Adelaide, designed by, I think it was Cox Architects. So as a company, we work very heavily with architects and designers, and our mantra is that we make beautiful designs buildable. So we, instead of just supplying a building product or a material, we seek to sort of bridge that gap between something that looks great on paper or on a render and actually being able to build that and achieve its end use. And a part of what keeps us going every day, keeps us motivated, is the excellent work that designers do. I often say designers make us look pretty good, as clearly you can see they did in this one. And so what makes us who we are? It's really the connection. So we are strong believers in modular and in Lego, and the idea that, you know, that with one Lego block you can create anything really. So it's about the fact that you can really achieve something that is pretty much custom or bespoke, but it's made out of standard elements that are modular and can be configured in any number of different ways. And the genius of our product is really in the clip, or in that connection. It is literally a click on button onto the track. So the tracks come with these fixing clips pre-mounted at the fixing centers or the pitch that you specify. And then, so you get packs of tracks and you get the battens, the pre-finished battens, and you just screw up the tracks and you click on the battens. That is our sort of main product, our click on battens product. And you can see further than that, we are going into other products which are based on the same platform. So we have a click on cladding system on these two top images. Top left one was a Mervac project, a great big feat on a multi-unit residential project. And the right-hand one is obviously a external facade with a fluted profile. We've also started a clip system which can be used for balustrades, balustrade infills, which many would know is a really tough application engineering-wise. And here we show the three types of products that we have, that we've got an interior wall and ceiling batten product, and then our click on screen products for doing balustrades and balconies, etc., as well as internal freestanding screens or privacy screens, and then a full rain screen external cladding, which can also be used for soffites. In terms of just going to ceilings, so a lot of what we do is interior ceilings, which obviously are for feature applications, but then also where there are acoustic requirements. Our product does perform excellently acoustically, being used in convention centres and theatres and performing arts centres and all that sort of thing. And you can see here how it neatly configures and connects with a Studco type suspended ceiling connection system, which all ceiling and wall contractors are familiar with. The excellent part about our product is that it effectively gives you a joinery finish or a joinery look, very high-end look, but can actually be installed by a plasterer, just a conventional plasterer. With our click on batten products, you can see there's quite a range of profiles that are available. They can be configured in any number of different ways. And you can obviously see on our website all the different looks that architects have achieved with it. Here is another look at that click on screen product, where you've also got a batten look, but it's applied to obviously balustrades in this case, which get a crowd loading. So the actual connection has got to withstand an enormous force. So we work along with engineers to achieve their performance solutions on a project by project basis. And you can see the difference between the click on screens product and the click on battens product. The click on battens product is typically, we'd get an acoustic panel behind it. It performs acoustically, and it's typically a one-way product. Whereas the click on screens product is, it's just aesthetically pleasing from all sides. So it provides an open look. They obviously work well together. With the click on screens product, so that was actually launched just this year. It's quite a new product. It is very exciting. We actually launched it or developed it because there were applications that our click on battens product was being asked for, but it engineering wise just couldn't achieve it. And so you can see the way that this click on screens clip works. So we'll have another one here, which actually obviously shows you the way that it actually just clicks in. So one thing about our product and our company is we're all about the click. So every connection that we provide is a simple click-in type system. And so there's a number of configurations, as you can see. And it's pre-mounted for a balustrade is pre-mounted to a rail system, as you can see there, which can be packed out, or it's got in and out adjustment to allow for site tolerances, and is very easy to install. And those are the different applications that product can be used on. It is pretty broad, right from a an office fit out type project, the way offices are being used these days post-COVID, right to the balustrades, as you saw before, and right to an exterior facade screen over glazing. And there is quite a wide range of profiles, both in solid timber and aluminium. Our click-on cladding product is also relatively new, and it is very exciting in that it comes as both powder-coated anodized, or we actually do a wood wrap onto it. So it's not, unlike the sublimated powder-coated wood grain finishes, this is actually a printed sheet onto polyolefin. That's a product that we actually import from Japan, and we do the wrapping onto the aluminium profiles ourselves. It's called the profile wrapping process. But the great thing about it is that it is a much more realistic, even textured finish than the sublimated powder-coated wood grain type finishes. Not only that, but it actually has far superior UV resistance and fade resistance because of its manufacturing process. So it is a very popular product. That finish there is actually a black butt look. The good thing about our click-on cladding is it shares the same platform as our very well-known click-on battens platform. So it's also a clip onto a track. So tracks are screwed up, and then it uses the tongue and groove type concept, and literally each board just clicks in. It is very fast to install, allows for thermal movement, and is obviously easy to do. It is fully non-combustible because it's an aluminium extrusion product for Group 1 interior applications, as well as the Class 1 for exterior. And there's obviously no fixings, and it's cost effective. As you can see there, I'll actually just play a little video here showing the install process. See, it doesn't get a lot quicker than that. And we have a whole range of trims, which are very finely detailed to provide a high level of finish. And just showing here the wide range of profiles. We go right up to 300 wide. We've got fluted profiles. And then our Series 2 range provides an alternative to the zinc type finishes, the more high level finishes that are used in higher end applications, and are generally architecturally specified. And you can see here we've got quite a range, including, once again, like a wide flute, a wide panel look, and they can be used in conjunction with each other. So you can actually join up different combinations of these sizes to create a random effect. Just a few features of it there. A rain screen type cladding system is a very, very durable type of system because it's basically a belt and braces type approach. So the final vapor barrier is at the back, so you use a ProClimate type system. It also provides for good thermal efficiency, and it's fully breathable. A few other design examples with that product, and a mock-up that we did showing that flute there is a 120 by 30. It's inside of our studio in Melbourne, and it's follows the golden ratio, which many might be familiar with. You can actually see the ProClimate vapor barrier behind it. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about us. This project that we're showing here, that's actually a combination of flute sizes with the wood wrap onto it, going into the entrance lobby of the building. And then there you can see our battens product beyond on the ceiling, as well as our solid timber paneling behind that. So we are traditionally a solid timber manufacturer that has gone into aluminium over time because of the fire requirements, but we really enjoy the flexibility of aluminium.
Jeremy, thank you. That was great. I'm just wondering, there's a few questions there. Would you like me to read them out and then you can
fine.
answer them?
If I focus on the questions rather than the technology, would be good.
George has asked, do you or can you provide detailed drawings for us in CAD format?
Absolutely, we can. Yep, we have them in CAD. We have them in Revit, and we are even playing around with Grasshopper scripting into Rhino. So we're very focused on the designer. As a company, over 90% of our projects that we supply are specified. Over 50% of them are actually specified by the tier one architects, FJMC and Woods Bagot and Cox and Hassel. So we're focused on the designer, not just the builder.
Sure. Tony has asked, am I getting ahead of myself, but what's the fire rating of your cladding?
Yeah, it's a deemed non-combustible. So it's a solid, it is a solid aluminium cladding. And then that finish that we put on, because it's less than I think the rules are if you're less than 1 millimeter, it's deemed as a coating. And the thickness of that film is 0.3. So it gets deemed as a coating. Yeah, so it's fully compliant.
Okay. Corey has asked, what was the exterior rain screen product called and how does it compare to zinc in price?
Yeah, good question. So it's called click-on cladding. That's literally what it's called. So we've taken the Apple approach to branding, where we just call the products what they are. So if you jump onto our website and go onto our products page, onto click on cladding, you'll see it all there. And how does it compare with zinc? Well, it compares very well. Like it's probably its big advantage is that zinc requires a specialist craftsman to install it in many times, like that, the true, copper type cladding. And so the cost to install those products are very high. They are typically, $500 a square meter or more, whereas our product would be around, $300 a square meter.
Susan has asked whether you have a connection system that allows a freestanding screen to rotate the individual battens.
You mean like for sun control?
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't focus on sun control per se, but happy to look at the application.
Diana has asked if you can give us an approximate price per lineal or square meter.
Okay, so one thing I didn't show there, but if you can, everybody can jump onto our website. We've got a pricing configurator there called Price and Spec.
Okay.
Probably should have presented that actually, But if you jump onto price and spec, it is going to be, we do have another upgrade coming next month, but all of our click-on-buttons products, for instance, are on that tool. So you can actually create your own pattern. So it's like a drag and drop type tool. You can choose your timber and your finish, etc. And you can work out your price as you go. And the excellent part about it is that from a value management perspective, you can basically reverse engineer a price.
Yes, that would be very useful. Lindsay has asked whether the cladding is bushfire rated for BAL 40 or flame zone.
It would be, being aluminium, like most of the bushfire ratings are all around timber.
Yep.
So being deemed non-combustible.
Do you supply any bushfire resistant timber products?
Yeah, we do. Yep. Yep. So if you jump on our website and look at our tone and groove cladding system, spotted gum is a timber that we do supply a lot of. So it's Queensland spotted gum, and it is fire rated. Yep.
So if we were doing a project, we'd supply drawings, and your team would specify the required track systems for it, or is that all fairly standard on your website?
It is fairly standard. So most people can, like, we've designed our website not to be, a shop front or a pretty face, but to actually be useful to the designer. So most questions should be able to be answered off the website. So there's a product page, but then there's one called technical specifications, and it's got a lot of information in there.
Yep.
However, of course, if you've got a question, well, send us the drawings and give us a call, and we've got an experienced team that can work through that.
Byron has asked what the lead time is for installation of the product.
For installation, depends on the installer, of course.
For supply of the product.
Yeah, for supply, yeah. It varies between about 8 and 12 weeks at the moment. We are a bit lucky. We haven't had the extreme supply issues that some people have experienced, which probably another point to make actually is that about 95% of our product is local. I mean, we do import some of the clip connections and things, but all of our aluminium is extruded locally. We use Queensland spotted gum. We do import American oak. Our manufacturing facilities here in Bendigo. We're a local story, and that helps from two perspectives. One is obviously supports local, but two, we do have pretty good control on our supply chain.
Great, thank you. I think that's all the questions at the moment. Stuart's got his hand raised. Are you wanting to ask a question, Stuart? Bronwyn might need to unmute you. And Greg as well.
Yeah, I much prefer conversation than presenting, so go for it.
I'll just see, sometimes people raise their hands and they don't actually mean to, so I'll just see whether Bronwyn can unmute Stuart and Greg, see if they've got a question.
I'm just trying to, but it's not letting me.
Maybe Stuart and Greg, if you have got questions, just maybe type them into the Q&A box and we'll see. In the meantime, is there a special license required for the installation of your product? Do you need to be a trained installer?
No. So we work with a lot of different installers. We have preferred installers. Like once we get to know people, because the way we work is we track most of the larger projects. We track them all the way from design to completion. So we have a dedicated sales team for that. And so we get to know, obviously, the architects, but then the builders, all the tier ones and everything, and then the different installers. And once you've done a couple of jobs, we do get the builders asking for tenderers. So, you know, if we get confidence in your work, we'll put your name forward. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think that's it, Jeremy. That was really interesting. And I'm sure, yeah, if anyone else has got other questions, they can contact.
No, that's good. Yeah, we have a very, obviously, very visual products. And I always say, you know, the building industry makes us look pretty good because we just have these Lego blocks and they use it in all these different ways. But jump on our website. There's lots and lots of project case studies that we've done internationally as well.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for your
Good.
time.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers.
So that will wrap up our meeting for today. Bronwyn is just going to post the various links if anyone missed them earlier. So there's a link there for the Design Award submission, a link to register for the conference tickets, and a link for the survey on the service fee. So if anyone can log on for the survey, that would be really appreciated. Obviously, the more information we get on that, the better. So a big thank you to our presenters, Jason and Jeremy, and thanks to those who contributed questions. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and thank you, Bronwyn. The next online chapter meeting will be 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 2nd of August. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now.